Great, so this is the last week for term 1, and we're going to be focusing on what are called geometric sequences. So very similar to what we did last week, just a little bit different with how you find the next number in the pattern. Okay. Last week when we had a pattern, the pattern was you take a number and you always add the same thing to get to the next one. So like, let's say I had, just as an example from last week, if I had 3 and the pattern was +2, what would be the next number? 5. And the next number? 7. And how about one more?
9.
Perfect. Okay. That's an arithmetic sequence. Spell that right, arithmetic. And what we call the common difference here is 2. So the common difference is 2. Okay. What we're going to look at this week is a pattern that multiplies. So let's say we started with something like 4. And I said, I want you to multiply by 2 to get to the next number. What would be the next number after 4? Yeah? 8. And if you multiply by 2 again, what would be the next number after that? Yeah? 16. And if we multiplied by 2 one more time? 32. Good. That's the only difference this week. This is called a geometric sequence because you have what's called a common ratio. So last week you had a common difference. That's what you added each time. This week you have a common ratio. That's that. Multiplying instead of adding. So this is this week. What we did up here, this was last week. All right, so let me go through some of the notes and then kind of the examples, and then that'll be it. So with a geometric sequence, there is a number that you are multiplying by. It has to be the same number all the way through. The number you multiply by each time is called the common ratio. That's exactly what I showed you right here. It's the number you multiply by each time to get from one term to the next. Now, if you look at this and you say, yeah, you added 4. But if I add 4 again, 8 plus 4 doesn't give me 16. So adding 4 each time was not the pattern in this one. It was timesing by 2. So let's look at our first example and see if we can figure out the common ratio. The easiest way to figure out the common ratio is to look at the smallest numbers. Those are the numbers that are going to be easiest for you to do in your head. You can do it with the bigger numbers, it's just going to be harder. Okay. All right, let's look at 2 and 8. What do you multiply by to get from 2 to 8? Yep.
4.
Times 4. So I'm going to put a times 4. And let's check this. What do you multiply by to get from 8 to 32? 4 again. And if you bring it up and you check it on your calculator, and you do 32 times 4, can you just wait for one person? Okay. It's a little bit harder because the numbers are getting bigger. But if we do 32 times 4, yep, we get 128. And if we do times 4 again, we get 512. So 4 is called the what here? Yes, exactly. Is there a space for it? Yep, so the common ratio is 4. Now, let's say you get stuck and you can't figure out what the common ratio is. you can always just take any number and divide by the one that's before it. That will always give you the common ratio. Take 32, divide by 8, and there you go. You get 4. If I took 128, what's the number that's right before it?
127.
Well, in my list. Yeah? 32. If you take any number and divide by the one in the list that's right before it, that will always tell you what you multiplied by each time to get from one to the next. Okay, so common ratio is 4. This one, let's see. I think, yeah, it might be a misprint on that. Let me double check it. Yeah, this should be 480. Change that second number to 480, and I think that's going to, actually, no, that doesn't mess up any of the other ones. Everything else is fine. Okay. One thing that sometimes people have trouble with is they try to say the pattern as like, oh, you're dividing by a number. You can't say it as dividing. You always have to say it as multiplying. So if your number is getting smaller, then that must mean you're multiplying by a number that's what?
Negative.
Not necessarily negative.
Fraction.
A fraction, yes. Okay. If your number is getting smaller, you must be multiplying by a fraction. Yep. Okay. Now, let's say we have a hard time. We can't figure out what the fraction is this time. How did I say you could figure out the common ratio? Take what can we do to figure out the common ratio? Yeah?
You guys divide it.
All right, so take which number should we take there?
960.
Not, well, we can't use the first one,
Divide by 9.
but we
So
can,
would it be 240 divided by 480?
exactly. Okay, take any number that you want and then divide by the one that comes before it in the list. It doesn't matter which number you pick. Okay, so we can take 240, divide by 480, and I get 0.5. What is that as a fraction? What's 0.5? 1/2, yeah. That's the common ratio. You're multiplying by 1/2 each time. Okay, you can't say divide by 2. You can't say it that way. You've got to say multiply by 1/2. And we can check it on the calculator. Take 960, multiply it by 1/2, and you get 480. Do it again. You get 240. Multiply by 1/2 again, you get 120. So multiplying by 1/2 is exactly what the pattern is. Okay. Any question on that? Okay, so that was that. Let's look at this one. So this is figuring out a term that's missing in the middle of your pattern. CJ, do you need your notebook right now for this?
No.
No? All right. Can you just close it for me?
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. So to figure out something that's in the middle, what you want to do is look at what comes before it and see if you can figure out the pattern there, and then just continue the pattern one more time. Remember, it has to be multiplication. How can you get from 1 to 6 with multiplication? Yeah? Do what with 6? Exactly. Let's times by 6. Let's see if that works here. If you do 6 and you multiply it by 6, do you get 36? Yeah. So how am I going to figure out what's missing?
36 times 6.
Yeah, you just do 36 times 6. 36 times 6 gives me 216. And now, what could I do to 216 to see if it's right?
Multiply by 6.
Because I already know the next number, yeah. If I multiply by 6 and I get, keep waiting for one person to come back. If I multiply that number by 6 and I get the next one, then I know I did it right. So yes, 216 is the correct number. Okay. Any question on that one? All right, let's try this one. What do you notice about the numbers here? Like this one compared to this one? There's kind of a big difference between them. One's what, and another one is?
A negative and a positive.
Yeah, one's negative and one's positive. So that means you have to be multiplying by a negative number each time. That's the only way it can go back and forth from negative to positive, negative to positive. Okay. Anybody think they know what you can multiply this by to get that? All right. let's-
Negative 3.
Times negative 3. Yep. And then if we times by negative 3 again, we can check it. Let's take 15 times negative 3. Yep, negative 45. If I times by negative 3 again, what should I get? I should get 135. And now what do I have to do to get the number I don't know? Multiply one more time. Negative 405. This time, I don't have another number here that I can check it against. Yeah.
Base that down.
Did anybody come back yet? No, if that says 1. Once that says a 1, then you're good to go. Okay. So, multiplying, again, yeah.
Oh, can I leave?
Oh yeah, you're being dismissed, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Just sign out for me, and then you're all set.
Alright.
Okay. Any question on how we got negative 405? You just scan your ID.
Oh.
And then just scan other. Just turn it to other and just scan that. And then just type where you're going.
Alright.
Okay. This one's a little harder, right? I think most people, when they see fractions, it's a little bit tougher to figure out. So, how could we find the common ratio? What do we do to find the common ratio? We take, I think you had said it earlier.
You're multiplying by a half.
Okay, so we are multiplying by a half, but let's say somebody couldn't figure that out. Like they're just not sure how to get that. How can you figure it out, let's say using these two?
Divided.
Yeah, what would you divide by what?
1/2.
So what would we do with these two to figure out the common ratio? Can't be anything with a half, because we don't know that it's a half. Let's
Divided by each other.
Yeah, take any term and divide by the one that comes immediately before it. So take like 1/16 and then divide that by 1/8. That's how you figure out what you're multiplying by each time. Take a term and divide by the one that comes before it. Doesn't matter which two you pick, but just take a term and the one right before it. Okay, so we're multiplying by 0.5 each time, which is what as a fraction? Yeah,
1/2.
yeah, we're timesing by a half. So what is the next fraction that we should get? Anybody tell me what I would type in on the calculator to figure it out?
What are you trying to find out?
We're trying to find the next fraction in that pattern. How would we use the calculator? Yeah.
Would you do 32 divided by 16?
Well, it's got to be something with
Oh.
times a half.
Oh,
We got to
So
do.
you do 1 over 32 times a half.
Yeah, exactly. 1 over 32
1 over 64.
times a half. Yep. Now, my calculator gives it to me as a decimal, but if I put that in, it's going to mark it wrong because it specifically says I have to give a fraction. So there's a button on the calculator that you can use that will change it to a fraction. Were you going to tell me the fraction?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is going to be 1/64th, but you've got that same button on your calculator. So if you're not good with changing things to fractions, you can always just type in the button and it'll tell you the answer. So 1/64th. You can go ahead. Okay, any question on that? All right, so now the last thing. What happens if they don't just want the next one, but let's say they wanted the 200th one from now? I don't want to sit here and multiply by a half 190 something more times until I finally get to the 200th one. So the last thing we're going to look at is what could we use for a formula to figure that out automatically. Okay, so we don't have to do that by hand. Okay, so here is the formula, which I think is that already printed on your notes? Okay. In that formula, there are a couple things that you have to fill in for. Okay, I'm going to highlight the two things you need to fill in. You need to fill in for A1, and you need to fill in for the R. So we just have to look up what those two things are. Let's start with the A1. A1 is the first term. If you don't know the first term in your pattern, you're not going to be able to do that. Okay. So that's the first term. Do you have a pass from where you were? I mean, from wherever, because you were gone.
I was in the back.
Okay, I'll tell you. So A1 is the first term. A sub n, that just stands for the nth term. Okay, that just stands for the nth term. What does that mean? Well, if you wanted to know the 10th term in a pattern, then you would write it as A sub 10. Yes? Yes. If you wanted to know the 20th term, you'd write it like that. So that's just a symbol that means 10th term, 20th term. What would be your notation if you wanted to know the 9th term? How would you write it?
9 next to it.
Yeah, you just put a 9 next to it. So this would mean 9th term. Ninth term, I think. Spelling's not my thing. So that's the first term. This is the nth term. And then in this formula, n always has to be greater than or equal to 1. Okay? Because it's the term that you're looking for. You can't look for negative terms. There's no such thing as like the negative first term or negative second term. Think about it as like people finishing a race. There's first, second, third, fourth. There's nothing before first, and there's nothing between first and second. First, second place. Same thing with terms in a pattern. This is the first term, that's the second term, that's the third term. There's nothing between the first and the second. They're right next to each other. Okay. And R is what you multiply by each time to get from one term to the next. So let me show you an example. Say we had 3, 6, 12, 24, 48. If I asked you to write a formula that predicts the terms in that sequence, what is the very first term? Okay. What's the first term? Yeah.
Would you do 6 divided by 3?
So right now, I'm just looking for the first term in that list.
Oh, 3.
3, yeah. First term is 3. And now R is what you multiply by each time. What are we multiplying by each time to get from one to the next?
2.
Yeah, we're multiplying by 2. If you take those two numbers and you fill them into that formula, we can use that to predict what comes next. So let's do that for this one. A sub n equals, first thing we write down is a sub 1. Caleb, what's a sub 1 in this case?
What is what?
What's a sub 1?
A sub 1?
Yes, our first term. Can anyone help him out? What's our first term? As in this list.
3.
Yeah, 3. Right? We already said that. First term is 3. I'm just filling that first term in right here. What's the R that I'm going to fill in? Yeah, 2. R is what you multiply by each time to get from one to the next. So let's fill in a 2 right here. 3 times 2, and no, you cannot do the 3 times 2 out and write 6. Okay, you can't do that out. That is the formula that would predict the terms in this pattern. So the 3 is which term? It's the which term? How about Miriam? Which term is the 3? First. How about the 6? Yeah. Second. And the 12?
Third.
And how about the 24? Fourth term. And the 48, Colin, which one is that? Fifth. So what you can do now with this formula is if you know this number, you can plug it into that formula and it'll automatically give you that number. Let's try plugging in 4 to our formula and see what it gives us. Micah, if I plug in 4, what should it give me? What's the 4th term in that pattern?
24.
24. Let's try plugging 4 into that formula and see what happens. Fill 4 in right there. What's 4 minus 1?
4 minus 1.
Yep,
3.
3. Okay. Let's take 2 to the 3rd power. Let's see what that is. 2 to the 3rd power gave me how much? Yep. Yeah, can you wait for one person to come back? Okay, so we got 8. And then multiply that by 3. 8 times 3, what did we get? 24. That's exactly what we were supposed to get. So now this formula will predict all the terms in the sequence. All right. So now that I explained it, let me ask somebody to help me do another one. I want to predict the 7th term. Just Smiley, how would I use this formula to predict the 7th term? Caleb, could you help us? How do we use that formula to predict the seventh term?
Which one? The one up top?
Yeah, that formula in the red box.
To predict.
We're going to use that formula to calculate the seventh term. Reagan, can you help me? How would I use that formula to predict the seventh term?
Would we substitute the letters for the numbers?
All right, what would you, so you are going to substitute in something. What, if we're trying to predict the seventh term, what number would we plug in?
We plug in 7 for the R.
So we don't, in this red box, we don't have an R.
So we would substitute the 7 for one of the numbers.
It's got to be for one of the letters.
For the letters.
And there's only one letter.
Substitute the 7 for the A.
Well, on the right side. Sorry, on the right side.
I
Substitute the 7 for the N.
Right. If you want to predict what the seventh term would be, all we do is plug in a 7 right there for n. What's 7 minus 1?
6.
6? Okay, so it might get kind of big, so we'd use our calculator. We plug in 7. 7 minus 1 is 6. 2 to the 6th power gives me 64. And then I have this times 3 in the front. So the seventh term would be 192. So I can just use that formula to figure it out. Okay. Let's try this one. What's the first term in that list of numbers? Yep, 5. And what are you multiplying by each time to get from one to the next? Yep. 3. So now take your formula. And what would we fill in for the A1? Well, Micah, what would I fill in?
5.
Yep, it would be 5. And what would I fill in for the R? 3. So take the two numbers that you got. Nope, you can't multiply them together. Okay, we can't multiply them. It's just a rule with these formulas. You just have to leave it the way it is. So 5 times 3 to the n minus 1. It has to do with PEMDAS, the reason we can't multiply the 5 and the 3 together. So that was good, though, with the 5 and the 3. Okay. And how about, let's see. Let's try this one. The last one is example 4. What are the two things I have to figure out in my formula? I need to know, yep, first term, and, please, thank you. First term and,
Ratio.
not the second term, the common ratio, which is which letter?
Which is 3.
What letter is it?
R.
And what did you say we multiply by to get from one to the next?
3.
3. And what's my first term?
6.
6. So to write my formula for those numbers, it would be a sub n equals, what would come right after the equal sign? Yep. 6 times, and what would come right after the times? 3. And then what do we have to make sure we put as an exponent on the 3? Yep.
N minus 4.
It's always n minus 1. Yep. Perfect. And that's what they're looking up for example 4. Okay. So that's geometric sequences.